Hi, and thanks so much for joining us. It's Jennifer Rogers Markwell, and you're joining us on the Platinum Talks Wealth podcast. Today, we're joined by Audrey Lee. Audrey, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Jennifer.
Of course. So, big question. Tell us all about who you are and why you do what you do.
I am a performance coach specializing in optimizing daily routines for athletes and especially for skiers and paddleboard racers. It's all about tapping into your highest potential. And how do you do that? It's through the little actions that you take each day. I work with recreational athletes to high level elite athletes and to look at the lifestyle, like what are you doing? And really it all comes down to energy. What is your energy level like? Do you wake up with lots of energy? Do you have energy throughout your day? Do you finish your day with energy? Same thing when they're racing, when they're training. Do you start off with a lot of energy? So I'm always asking those types of questions and asking these questions to get people to start connecting more deeply with their body and listening to their body cues. I'm hungry. I have low energy. That's associated with this. And so I do that because I grew up as an athlete and I learned this on my own because all I wanted was to be the best. And that kind of goes back into my story as well, is that growing up, my father was always make us proud, do your best. And so what does that mean to do your best? Like, hey, I want to be the best being, which means I've got lots of energy, I've got focus, I can, do well in my athletics, but also in the other things, academics, best at work. And so I do this to inspire people to make small steps to that accumulate and lead to big change.
That's awesome. I mean, I by no means am I an athlete at all. But I feel like, I mean, that obviously reflects on everyone, regardless of what you're doing as well. That's fascinating.
Yes. Yeah. What I like to tell people is that I teach people how professional athletes take care of themselves. That could you imagine how well you could perform at what you do if you got plenty of rest every single day, if you ate the best foods every single day, that if all of your needs were met, if all of those physically, mentally, you're making sure that you're, well rested, that we also do breath work, we do meditation so that you have clear focus as to where you are going in your day, in your life, and how you're using your energy. It's something that you don't have to be a professional athlete. Everyone can benefit from this.
Yeah, like that. I mean, all of this, I'm like nodding profusely. If you're not watching a video, I'm like, yes, because sleep, food, all so important. But I mean, I'm going to ask a super novice question for you. Where in your realm, I mean, where do you start? Because I feel like me personally, everybody could always do better, myself hugely included in that. Not getting enough sleep, running hard, burning the candle at all ends, eating pretty good for the most part, but could I do better? Of course.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, you know what I always do is, and I ask, like, tell me what your day is like. What's a typical day like? And then I ask, how do you feel? What's your energy level like? And I'm doing this A, B, C, D, D. What type of food do you eat? Well, I grab something and I run. Okay. Well, then let's start with hydration. This is what I start with everyone. What's your hydration level like?
Mm.
Are you hydrating throughout your day? Just think about your beautiful flowers behind you or your plants. When they don't have water, what happens? They wilt. And if you think about that for yourself, the human body is about 60% water, as is the brain, 60 to 70% water. If you're not hydrated, you can't focus. And if you're wondering, like, wow, I'm really dragging, I'm having headaches, this, it could simply be by lack of water. So I always have people start there. And the simplest thing is wake up in the morning and have a glass of water. That's one thing that you can do that's going to have a positive effect on the rest of your day. And it's something that people can do and they will be successful in versus here's a meal plan, follow all these. And then it's like, I'm overwhelmed. I already have so much to do. And now you want me to do this? That's too much. So
Yeah.
I oversimplify and just make little steps. And then I always ask, does this seem realistic? Could you do this? And most of the time, I'm like, of course I can do that. Like, all right, then give it a try, right? Give it a try. Let's see how it goes. And then I always ask, how do you feel? How did your day go? And, just start looking at things from a different perspective.
So you mentioned that you were an athlete and you kind of came into the path this way. I mean, was that something that you always kind of forecasted yourself saying, hey, here's what I'm going to do when I grow up?
Not at all. No, not at all. And this also ties into with our different memories. I'm half Chinese and half Colombian. My father is traditional Chinese father, where there are only approved, like these are worthy professions. You can be a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant. There's no other option. Those are the three choices that you have. And I was going against the grain to one to be an athlete. Like an athlete, like where's that going to lead you? That doesn't lead anywhere. That's something that you can do on the side, but if it affects your academics in any way, no. And so it's like, I can do this, but I have to also do those things. And so I did become a doctor. I have my PhD in exercise science, but that wasn't the doctor, that was the approved doctor. But that was my quest for knowledge, really was the thing, is that I want to be my best. And somehow I got onto this path, and not somehow, medicine. You have to start off with anatomy and physiology. And I had a fantastic professor, and just by having that inspiration, then I thought about, like, I can study exercise science and do something with this. Like, I love this. I mean, I absolutely love this. Just to think, like, the human body is incredible. And when you can learn how to take care of your body to optimize your health and your energy and all those things, like, that's incredible. And so I just followed the pursuit, passion to learn more about the human body so that I can be a better athlete. And then that just kind of moved along, like, wait a minute, but people need to learn this. If they're not going to school to learn about your body and to learn about nutrition, where do they learn about this? Social media, right? We're in a magazine, and we know where that is. Like, that's so confusing. Like, one day is this, then another day is this, or you can, in the same day, like, completely conflicting information all of the time. And so to simplify things, and to me, it's always like food in its most natural form. What does that mean? Like, fruits and vegetables, easy, right? Simple. Like, I oversimplify everything because our life is already very complex. So why make it even more complex?
Yeah, no, 100% on that. Gosh. Well, and you bring up I'm very fascinated actually. You bring up so many unique points because, and again, what a unique tie to finance on this too, because similar concept, right? Like, we have our bodies, we're born here, like, but how do we really cultivate and take care and be the best versions of ourselves in essence? We're not taught that. Like, we're not. It's just like you just keep going and you do your thing and that's it. But nobody teaches you kind of the 101 of how can I take care of myself the very best.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting too that when I talk to people, I talk about energy, I'll talk about food, right? So food, calories, that's energy. And then also use budget, right? Use financial terms to talk about food and nutrition because it makes sense. People can understand it. If you say you have an energy budget, you only have so much energy in your day. Are you using it on things that are rewarding for you? Is it giving you something? Is it filling your cup, or is it draining you? And then when you look at it that way, like, wait a minute, I don't want to be stressed out, which is typically like, I'm really stressed. Okay, well, can we take a look at your schedule and routine and what is truly important for you? And then going back to that budget, like, this is draining my budget right here. Like, okay, well, do you need to do this? And maybe they don't need to do it, or I do, but, like, do you need to do it in that capacity? And it's really, it's different for everyone, but that conversation tied into finances. And then same thing too. It's like, well, eating well and going to the gym, that's money, right? But then it's like, yes, it's an investment in yourself. And especially with talking with women, we're so used to always taking care of everybody else. We take care of ourselves last, if they even get a chance to take care of themselves. But if you say, when you prioritize your health and when you invest in your health and wellness, you have more to give to everyone. When you take some time to rest and sleep and you wake up and you're a different person, and that affects everything.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh. Like, similar concept of like putting your oxygen mask on first,
Yeah.
right? So you have to be able to take care of yourself so then you can in turn take care of others, but you have to take care of yourself first. And same thing in finance too, right? You can't spread that around if you're not able to take care of yourself at the end of the day as well. So that, I mean, ties beautifully into the money memory conversation. what is a money memory that you had as a child or a younger person that helped evolve your relationship to money as an adult?
I have a few, and I really found it so interesting to think about that because, sometimes we forget about these memories that we had. But my father was unemployed, my mom was working full time. And I remember as a kid, I don't know how old I was, it was like maybe 5, but what I understood was like, I gotta help, I'm gonna help out, I'm gonna figure out how to help out. And so I drew little pictures of animals and nature and I don't know what, but little pictures. And I always laugh, like everyone else does the lemonade stand. I had my art and I was going to sell my art, and I sat on the stoop and people go by and, hi, you want to buy my picture? You want to buy my picture? And that was my first business, and interesting looking at it as an adult now, like, wow, that was like my gallery and I was selling my pieces out there, and those are collector's items now.
That's awesome.
So that was my first, was innocence in regard to money. There was innocence about it. There was joy. Like, I wanted to give, I wanted to help, I wanted to serve. And that was something that just came naturally to me. And then the most profound or most impactful money memory that I had was older. So it was more of going to school and starting to think about college, jobs, making money. And that wasn't me. I was never thinking about that because kids are just, oh, I was having a great time, I'm in school. But it was my dad. It was always, you must do well in school. You have to get the good grades. You can go to this college. So you can get this job to make us proud. And it always
Mm.
make us proud. And there was this shift that, oh, okay, I have to start thinking about money. I'm going to have to make money. And the only ways I know how to make money are the ways that he says that I need to make money. And so then to me, that money memory became more of a means of control. I have money. And if you want this money, you must do what I say. And that's what to me was like, oh, it became heavy. And really that contrast, when I was young, before I had that, there was a lightness, there was joy, but then it was like, oh, I mean, it's like darkness. It was a shadow that
Mm.
fear, control. I want to be free. I want to enjoy life. Oh no, you have to do these things. And so then money became, like I said, so control, it became power, it was manipulation. And um, yeah, I mean, so that was something to really learn, that it's like, wow, I want to be financially free. I don't want to be controlled by other people. And so um, yeah, that was a very impactful memory. And to shift that is like, wait, as you were saying, like, money is a tool. And that shift of like scarcity was from my father's experience and their, prior generations experience. And to take that step and say, no, that doesn't, I don't want to keep having that memory. Like, that's a memory, but that's not going to be my relationship with money anymore.
That's huge. That's huge. So, thanks for sharing that. How, for you, did you change that narrative? I mean, because there's definitely an interesting psychology behind the whole thing, I find, right? It's fascinating to me because everybody has their own really unique money story. And sometimes, like you had said, sometimes the narrative doesn't serve you. Sometimes it can, but sometimes it doesn't. And it's not how you want to have the relationship with money or sharing that energy moving forward. How did you evolve that?
Well, that's a challenging one, and is really of just going through that. I was going to say the hamster wheel of going in circles and going in circles and going in circles. And why am I in such a lack? Why am I struggling when I have the highest education? Or, one of these things that ties back to deep down inside, it's because you didn't follow what was told of you. You have,
Mm.
like, why did you study that? That doesn't make money. You should have studied something that made money, versus like, wait a minute. You have to coach yourself out of it. Like, those are not your thoughts. Those are not your beliefs. Those are from elsewhere. And, it's like, okay, you were there at the time. These are not yours. I'm letting them go. I'm choosing, right? And that was the whole freedom. It's freedom. I get to choose my relationship with money, which goes back to educate yourself. That I had to educate myself because I didn't know anything about money. I was saying that in our house we never spoke about money, and we just, especially, like, we never spoke about money. It was not something communicated of how much something costs and having to work for this or to save. It was just nothing. And there was never any education either. Save money, invest money. No, that was a foreign, like, I don't even know where people learn this stuff. Growing up was like, there are stocks and bonds. I don't, how do people even, I had no concept at all whatsoever. And so the hamster wheel of lack and limitation and enough, not enough. And I was like, wait a minute, I need to learn. I need to learn about this. And I think it was just taking classes and going to a class and learn about like, hey, this is a tool. You can learn how to use money, learn how to circulate money. And that was a whole like that when I heard that concept of circulating money, that was, I mean, that was mind blowing to me. Circulation of money, that it is a tool, right? It's a form of energy that you can use this, use money for services, use it as an exchange of things, of goods, of services. And then starting to learn from there was also learning worth. What is the worth? What is of value? And that was another, like, these were all, and I learned these as an adult. It wasn't something young. It was more of, again, going back to this, I was in this cycle where like almost a whirlwind of the same thing. Like you keep going through the same thing. This can't be. And taking that step like to learn. And I'm still learning and I'm still continuing to learn. And that's why, you know, your podcast is some really to hear people's stories of where, you know, the infidelities, their memories, and to just to hear, it's like, wow, to hear these experiences where a positive experience to lead people in a different direction, a positive experience, one little thing to change your perspective. And so, yeah, so having that perspective to learn, like, this is a tool, you can learn about it. There are courses. You have financial advisors. They have, you know, like, once you start to learn, it's almost like a code was cracked, like, wow, wait a minute, like, that's where the freedom lies. Probably with anything, right? Not just the money, with your nutrition, with fitness, with health, that it isn't a foreign concept. Like, I don't know how to take care of myself. Then you learn about all of these things like financial health. We talk about mental health. Right now, we are comfortable, and it's becoming more of conversation that we can say, like, how's your mental health? How's your financial health? Like, that's something to talk about and to share each other's experiences. And that is something that's really helped me, is to be able to have a discussion, to be able to talk about things. Oh, these are going well. I'm doing this. Oh, tell me about your business or whatever. And exchange, and to ask, well, how much is that going to cost? And not to feel ashamed or embarrassed. Like, no, I mean, they're providing a service or this is a product. There's an exchange. Well, what is it? And then to, I guess it was also the neutralizing or taking away that negativity that I had learned. Like, nope, there's no positive or negative. It's neutral. And you get to choose. And I'm choosing positive, and I'm going to learn all the ways that I can have a positive relationship with money. And I'm still learning ways. So it's an ongoing. And I think that's one of the things too, is like, there's so many things to learn that once you learn, like, this could be a way that you invest your money, but have you heard about this? Have you heard about this? And that's why, again, you have your advisors, because I'm not a financial expert by any means, not at all. And to have someone say, you might want to look into this. If you'd like to come and talk to me, we've got something that I think you'd be interested in. And then you have that conversation and learn and ask the questions.
Yeah, no, like that, absolutely. I mean, it's definitely been a taboo subject for so long. And that was one thing I was finding with clients too, as a financial advisor, right? There's always an interesting story that was tied to how people were reacting and having that relationship with money. People who were wildly successful would have, you know, questions saying, hey, can I do this? Or am I not going to be able to retire? Am I going to eat cat food? I'm like, no, you're doing really good. Like, you've got a great plan, but they'll go back to that money memory as a kid of trying to get food on the table or whatever that looked like. And it's definitely such a deep rooted psychology. And the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, we're not talking about this as much as we should, right? And sharing these stories, because back in my day, my grandparents raised me, right? So they were, you know, depression kids. So it was absolutely not discussed at all. So totally different generational thing. And then now I'm like, wow, I'm hearing this. Like, we should be sharing this because we can all learn from each other. And in the world of money and finance, everything changes all the time. But if we can get back to that deep rooted kind of psychology conversation where we're, you know, heart centric in what we're sharing so we can learn from one another, that's beautiful.
And that's what you're doing, which is so beautiful, because it really is, you know, if you're not shining any light on anything, then there's always going to be some mystery or maybe some fear about it. But when you see, like, there's nothing to be afraid of, there's nothing to be afraid of, let's have the conversation. Or if there is, that is also part of the conversation that I'm sure you have. I am afraid of losing everything. Okay, that's a valid, okay, and why? Then you go back
Absolutely.
to my grandparents, it happened to my parents. Okay, well, when we take conscious action, that will not happen. And that's why we're here. That's why you do what you do. So that's it.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. So I know when you and I chatted briefly before, we kind of already went into this slightly, but financial infidelities. And that definably can mean different things to different people as well. I know you touched on it ever so briefly before, but would you mind sharing a financial infidelity that you've experienced or that you've witnessed that you think others could learn from as well?
Yes. Yes. Well, back to what we're saying is financial infidelity of this coveted, this secretive, it's, and what is this secretive? It's shame, there's fear, there's guilt, like these negative feelings of never speaking about money. I really think it's because fear, fear of the unknown. We don't really know about it, so I don't want to talk about it, but I was never educated about it, so I had no concept. I mean, I really had no concept that what to do or how to save or anything, or just to think about you only have a certain time frame in your life to be making money, to be earning money, and you will need so much money to have a certain quality of life. And like none of those things were discussed. That if you don't know the questions, like you can't even ask the questions because you're in this, I mean, it's almost like a vacuum. And so these infidelities, really, it's like living in lack and limitation was really just like glasses. Like that's how I saw everything until I learned, like, when you go to the eye doctor and they say, like, oh, we need to change your prescription, or those glasses are not working for you, you need something else. And then to see, like, that is not how all financial experience is for everyone. And to see that there are those steps. And so, yeah, to learn to speak about money, to learn to ask questions and not to be afraid, like, how did and that's the interesting part too, is to be curious and to ask people, like, say, especially entrepreneurs, right? Because that's a whole entrepreneurs versus employed, full-time, part-time. It's, you show up, you do your job, and then you have your salary, versus I'm going to take a concept and create value with this concept that people will pay me for. Like that's a whole other realm, financial infidelity, like that. Again, so I'm saying in our family, we never spoke about money, was never educated about money. And then to think entrepreneurship, like that's only for special people, not the average. Like the average person can't just start your own company. Like, no, that doesn't happen. That's for geniuses, I guess. Like I didn't even know because we never talked about it. It's just like, I don't know how people do these things. Like that was like magic. Like that must be magic. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. And if you don't know, you don't know, right? So, and it's a big, fantastic, but scary world of entrepreneurship. There's a lot of risks. Your paycheck is not coming, like you had said, like you're not part-time, you're not working or full-time working for a company that you're getting a paycheck every 2 weeks. That can fluctuate. It can look different. It can be very different. But what you don't know is what you don't know as well. It can also be so fulfilling and fantastic and amazing. And, you're doing so much more in whatever avenue that looks like for you. But I mean, if you weren't kind of brought with that entrepreneur like bug or spirit when you were younger, you had to learn it and figure it out along the way and watch other people do it and be like, I can do that too.
Yeah. And it's really interesting. We've heard the class that we're taking, I'm sure we've heard in all kinds of other, it's like there are other people that are doing what you do, making far more money than you do, and have less, experience and qualifications that you do. And the whole difference is that their relationship with money, their relationship, I mean, because it's the relationship and education and experience with money, that it's positive. And then to learn, when you learn, like, it isn't a trick, they're not special, they're not, they're not fooling anyone. Like they understand, like they have a true belief, like this is what my experience is worth. I don't need to go to school to be experienced. I don't need to these, and so like that is
Yeah.
another big tremendous shift. Like my job is to help people, and there's a mix of all these different things, and I don't need, and that's going against the grain of this 9 to 5, that you take this, you get this degree, and then this is your job, and you do that for the rest of your life, and then that's it. Versus you can do whatever you want. Like that's complete freedom. That's that unknown realm where you can bend things and mold things to however you choose. And then that's, I mean, when you have that tied in with your finances, I mean, that's true flourishing. That is abundance. And that's how you help people, which is so incredible, because then it isn't negative, that when you do have that abundance, you can help others.
And I think that's where the magic happens, truly, right? Like that's where the magic happens. That's where I think your self-worth comes in because you realize what you can do, how much you can give, and that there's value there.
Right. Yeah, it really is, because then it isn't about, because then it's not about money. Because again, money is energy, money is a tool, but then you're there and you're fully present. You're not like, well, I'm just here for the paycheck. I just, at, 2 o'clock, whatever, that's my lunch break, I'm out. You're there and you're giving, and you're just really that, you're generous. You're generous because you have, and you can't help but give.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. You've brought in so many just fantastic, I think, nuggets to the conversation as well. Like, hopefully people who are listening are like, yes, yes. I mean, I know I'm sitting here like nodding to a lot of things you're saying, and I'm like, absolutely. Just so heart-centric and so just a very eloquent way of saying things too. So thank you.
You. And isn't it fun? I mean, just saying that, I love how you say that, heart centric, like leading with your heart as opposed to here, because we can rationalize all kinds of things, but how does it really feel? How does it make you feel? How does it make others feel? And that's something so tangible, so perceptible, that's the way to go.
Absolutely. So thank you. And as we start to kind of wrap things up, one thing I always like to ask is what are tips or tricks that you use to utilize money maybe differently in your own household?
Yeah, so tying back with the nutrition, one thing that I really, really focus on is, just like you do your budget planning, budgeting and planning your meals, planning out foods. This is literally, I gave a talk 2 days ago for one of the teams, and then talking with individuals of, plan out your meals, plan out your snacks. And doesn't mean meal plan and just realize, okay, breakfast is eggs with this. It's more of, first think about, okay, this is what we did. There are 5 days in your work week. There's 3 meals per day. That means 15 meals that you need food for. And you can purchase that, right? Instead of, because it adds up when you go for breakfast and you go for lunch, you have a coffee. That is something, when you start you look at budgeting, wow, I'm spending a lot of money just on coffee. And
Hmm.
if you have that money and say, I'm going to go to Costco, for example, no, not sponsored by Costco in any way, but going to buy bulk because I need, like, one thing was bananas. Athletes are always eating bananas, right? And we always talk about a smoothie. Like, hey, if you have a smoothie every single day for those 5 days, you need 5 bananas just for your smoothies. Okay. And then, because one athlete was like, oh, I didn't even realize that because I bought them, and kids ate bananas, like I didn't have enough bananas. Like, okay, then you're going to need to plan out that, right? So you plan out so that you can make better choices, and so that you are in your financial budget with your food. Like, okay, you can buy in bulk. So I buy bulk grains, staples that will last longer. So like whole grains, rice, I always get lots of rice. Noodles, those are dry, those last forever. Beans, dried beans, those also last forever. And that, I mean, 5 pounds is less than a can. And if you think of what you get in a, say, a Buddha bowl, and you get a little serving of this, and what the whole meal costs, like the amount of money that you spent in that meal is the same amount of money you could spend to make food for the whole entire week. And that, when you start to see that, like, wow, that's big. And so that is saving money by preparing as much food as I can at home, or, when I have the time, but also spending money on good appliances to help you in your food preparation. So, like, say, for example, rice, grains, beans, lentils. If you have a machine, say a rice cooker or an instant pot, where put the ingredient in, you put some water, you press a button. Now you can go about your business and do other things. You don't have to think about it anymore. Then it's easy because then the others, I don't have all day to spend in the kitchen. And then I say, I don't expect you to spend all day in the kitchen. I don't want you to spend all day in the kitchen. We've got a life to live, right? But so that you have things ready for you, they're easy. This way you could just grab, like, oh, I've got fruits that I can choose from, an assortment of fruits. I've got an assortment of vegetables. I've got some grains. I've got some beans. And you go about your day. Easy. And so I really like doing that. And then it's fun because then you can, I think there's a lot you can do with food, and food should be enjoyable. So then it's your budget, you save some time, but then you're more conscientious in your planning. Like, I know that Jennifer really likes this, and I know the kids like this, and then you can make it fun and it's healthy.
And not to be political, but when you're eating clean, that also goes with your health, which can make a big difference financially on healthcare and what you're spending and what your needs are on that side of things too, I feel like.
Absolutely. I agree 100%.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing. It was such a pleasure.
Likewise. Thank you so much for what you do, and thank you to continue doing what you're doing.
Oh, no, my complete pleasure across the board. Thank you. And thank you for those of you listening or watching, and hopefully you'll join us on the next Platinum Talks Wealth podcast.